We don't fall for the wrong people by accident. Most of the time, we fall for them because they fit something familiar, not necessarily something healthy. Often, it's because they remind us of emotional blueprints we were handed long ago. That inner template, shaped by childhood experiences and unresolved wounds, quietly dictates our attraction. You might meet someone who feels magnetic, like you've known them your whole life, like there's an instant bond. But that magnetic feeling, that's not always a sign of true love. Sometimes it's your nervous system recognizing something it once knew: instability, emotional distance, inconsistency. Psychologist Harville Hendricks calls this the Imago, the unconscious image of our caretakers formed in early development. We seek out people who mirror both the love and the pain we experienced as children. If you grew up earning affection, you might be drawn to people who make you work for it. If love meant walking on eggshells, you might confuse anxiety with passion. It's not your fault, it's your body trying to resolve an old story. Sigmund Freud suggested we are driven by repetition compulsion, the unconscious drive to recreate familiar emotional situations in the hope that we can finally master them. So when you repeatedly fall for emotionally unavailable people, or those who treat you poorly, it's not because you're broken, it's because your psyche is trying to complete an unfinished story. The ending you never got as a child, the parent who finally apologizes, the love that finally stays, is what your adult self still seeks. But that ending isn't coming from the outside, it's coming from within. Healing begins when you stop looking for someone to play the role of the savior and start playing the role of the protector of your own heart. As you reflect on your past relationships, you might notice a pattern. Maybe they all started with charm and intensity but ended in confusion. Maybe you kept choosing people who were unavailable, but you stayed hoping they'd change. And that's not random, that's programming. Your subconscious pulls you toward the familiar, not the safe. Clinical psychologist Dr. Nicole LePera says, we are often attracted to people who activate our wounds because on some level, that familiarity feels like home. If home was chaos, you might associate chaos with love. If home was cold, you might confuse warmth with danger. That's why stability can feel boring and consistency can make you restless. Because your nervous system doesn't associate calm with love, it associates intensity with love. And until that's rewired, you'll keep choosing partners who make you chase, prove, earn. Your choices aren't just psychological, they're biological. Intermittent reinforcement, a principle studied by behavioral psychologists, explains how unpredictable attention or affection creates the most potent attachments. Like gamblers pulled toward slot machines, we become addicted to relationships where rewards are inconsistent. The message your brain receives is, stay longer, try harder. It's not love, it's neurochemistry. Dopamine spikes when uncertainty is involved. That's why you get hooked on the text that takes hours. The love that shows up then disappears. Evolution also plays a role. For early humans, love and attachment were tied to survival. We evolved to prioritize bonding with those who provide emotional highs, because those highs felt like safety, like belonging. But in modern life, this can backfire. Your instincts haven't caught up to your reality. You're not choosing with your head, you're choosing with your body's memory. There's also the issue of self-concept. If you believe deep down you're unlovable or too much or not enough, you'll be drawn to people who confirm that belief. You'll ignore red flags, excuse bad behavior, romanticize crumbs, not because you want to suffer, but because it fits the narrative you already carry. And when someone treats you with respect, shows up consistently, it might not land. You might push it away because a part of you whispers, "This isn't love. Love has to be earned." Insecure attachment styles, as described by John Bowlby and Mary Ainsworth, explain this further. If you have an anxious attachment, you crave closeness but fear abandonment. So you may be drawn to avoidant types, people who keep their distance. It's a painful dance, one chasing, one withdrawing, but it's familiar. And until awareness enters the picture, the cycle continues. The key is to pause and ask, what does love feel like to me? Does it feel safe or scary, calm or chaotic? Do I equate longing with intimacy? Do I trust love that doesn't come with a chase? Start there. Start with the stories you've internalized. Start with the people who taught you what love is supposed to feel like. Then ask, do I want to keep living this script? Or do I want to write a new one?
Writing a new one means facing the discomfort of change. It means sitting with the unfamiliar. Maybe it means being single for a while. Maybe it means turning down the people who feel like home, but don't treat you like a home. Maybe it means grieving the love you never received and giving it to yourself instead.
Brené Brown says you can't get to courage without walking through vulnerability. Loving differently requires vulnerability, not just with others, but with yourself. To admit that what you've called love was sometimes a trauma response, that your loyalty was sometimes just fear in disguise, that your overgiving was an attempt to be chosen, but you don't need to be chosen. You need to choose. Choose yourself. Choose peace. Choose relationships where you don't have to sacrifice your self-worth to feel seen, where you don't have to shrink to be loved, because real love doesn't feel like pain. It doesn't leave you guessing. It doesn't punish you for having needs. It holds you. It meets you. It grows with you. And it begins always with how you love yourself.
You'll still feel the pull toward the old type. You'll still be tempted by the patterns, but now you know what they are. You have language, you have awareness, and that awareness is power. You're not doomed to repeat the same story. You're invited to evolve it, to step out of the role of the wounded child and into the role of the conscious adult, to stop confusing intensity with intimacy, to stop calling inconsistency passion, to redefine love, not as something you earn, but something you are worthy of just by being.
This shift requires more than affirmations and good intentions. It requires awareness and the courage to break a pattern you didn't choose, but inherited. Many of our romantic tendencies are formed not in adulthood, but in childhood, through the experiences that taught us what love felt like, even when that love was unreliable or absent. The nervous system records what is familiar. If love came with anxiety, if it came through distance or disapproval, then as adults we unconsciously seek out that same energetic signature. The brain favors familiarity over happiness. This is not because we are broken, but because our biology is wired for predictability. Safety, even if painful, feels better than uncertainty. Consider the research by Mary Ainsworth and John Bowlby, pioneers in attachment theory. They categorized attachment styles into secure, anxious, avoidant, and disorganized. Children who were consistently loved, held, and emotionally attuned too grew up with secure attachment. But those who experienced unpredictability in caregiving, whether through emotional unavailability, over-control, or abandonment, often developed anxious or avoidant patterns. As adults, these patterns become the lens through which we view love. Anxiously attached individuals may chase unavailable partners, mistaking inconsistency for excitement. Avoidantly attached individuals may sabotage closeness, fearing engulfment or dependency. The key point is, your relationships are not just about who you love. They're about what your nervous system has been trained to recognize as love. Now add the social context. We live in a culture that romanticizes chaos. Movies, novels, and media glorify the story of the tortured lover, the chase, the emotional roller coaster. When someone texts back quickly and consistently, we might label them as boring. But if someone makes us wait, breadcrumbs affection leaves us hanging, we interpret that tension as passion. It's not. It's the activation of an old wound, a wound that keeps saying, if I work hard enough, maybe this time, I'll finally be loved. Psychologists call this repetition compulsion, a term coined by Freud and later expanded by Jung. It's the unconscious urge to recreate old emotional environments in an attempt to master them. But what often happens is not mastery, it's re-traumatization. Every emotionally unavailable partner isn't just a new experience. They are a reminder of the first time you felt invisible. Every relationship that mimics your past is your psyche's way of saying, this still needs healing. But here's the thing, healing doesn't come through someone else finally doing it right. Healing comes when you finally recognize the pattern and stop playing the same role in it. When you stop proving your worth and start believing in it. When you start loving not for validation, but for connection. Think of it like this. If your heart was a house, who have you allowed to live there? Have they cared for it? Or have they left it in ruins, expecting you to keep rebuilding? Now imagine locking the door, not from fear, but from discernment, and only opening it again to someone who knocks with intention, stays through the rain, and respects every wall you've built and every room you've cleaned. Biologically, the chemicals involved in love complicate things further. Oxytocin, the bonding hormone, is released through physical touch, intimacy, and even shared vulnerability. Dopamine spikes when you anticipate a reward, like a text from someone you like. But if that reward is inconsistent, the dopamine loop becomes stronger. You're not crazy for missing someone who made you feel alive one moment and ignored the next. Your brain is reacting exactly as it was designed to. But now that you know this, you can choose differently. Instead of chasing intensity, begin choosing consistency. Instead of mislabeling anxiety as love, learn to honor your calm. Choose the person who grounds you, not the one who excites your chaos. This doesn't mean settling, it means maturing. Emotional maturity involves learning to distinguish chemistry from compatibility, attention from affection, and fantasy from reality. Jung spoke of individuation, the process of becoming a whole, integrated self. Individuation involves confronting your shadow, the parts of yourself you've hidden or disowned. For many, the shadow includes the parts of them that crave love desperately, that feel unworthy without a partner, that collapse their identity into someone else's. To love well, you must integrate these parts, not shame them. Bring them into the light, ask them what they need, hold them the way no one ever did. You're not asking too much. By wanting someone who communicates clearly, who respects your time, who listens. You're not being needy by wanting emotional intimacy. These are basic requirements for any healthy relationship. The fact that you were taught otherwise is the wound, not the truth. Let's step into an example. Imagine someone named Valeria. She keeps falling for emotionally unavailable partners, the kind who start off intensely and then withdraw. Every time they do, she becomes anxious, overinvested, and desperate to win them back. But through therapy, Valeria begins to see a pattern. She realizes that growing up, her father was affectionate only when she achieved something. The rest of the time, he was distant. She learns that her body has associated love with effort. So when someone makes her work for their affection, it feels familiar, like home. This realization doesn't make the pain vanish, but it gives her power. Now, when she meets someone new and feels that magnetic pull, she pauses. She asks, is this love? Or is this my nervous system remembering something old? She starts choosing people who show up consistently, even if at first it feels strange. She retrains her body to feel safe in stability, and over time, love becomes less of a chase and more of a resting place. This is what it means to evolve the story. You don't do it by swearing off love or building walls. You do it by becoming aware of your patterns, by feeling the pull toward the familiar and gently resisting it, by sitting with your discomfort instead of acting it out, by taking your power back from the people who never knew what to do with it in the first place. And none of this is about perfection. You will stumble. You will be tempted. Sometimes you will go back. But now, Every step backward comes with more clarity. You learn faster, you leave sooner, you return to yourself more easily. That's what healing looks like. It's not linear, it's layered, and each layer brings you closer to love, not as something outside of you, but something that grows within. Jung famously said, "I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become." So, choose to become someone who no longer begs for the bare minimum. Someone who doesn't mistake crumbs for connection. Someone who builds a new blueprint, not from fear, but from self-respect. This isn't about blaming your past. It's about understanding it. It's about holding space for your inner child, your younger self, and saying, "I see you, I won't abandon you anymore." Because that's what most of this has been, a search for someone who wouldn't leave, someone who'd stay. But now you stay, you stop running, you stop giving your heart to people who don't have the capacity to hold it. Yeah, you start building a new blueprint, one based not on survival, but on thriving. And it's quiet work, not always glamorous, but it's the work that changes everything. As Carl Jung said, your vision will become clear only when you look into your heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens. So look inside, awaken, see the patterns, see the pain, see the part of you that keeps loving the wrong people, and ask it what it needs. Then give it that. Not through someone else, through you.
Because the truth is, you were never broken, you were surviving. And now you're ready to live.
Not in fantasy, but in truth.